Hello and welcome to the Simpler Futures free video for Friday, December 20th. This is David Starr, and tonight we're going to do an Elliott wave treatment of gold as we wrap up 2019, getting ready to head into 2020. And one of the reasons I mentioned that is I was looking at gold in the Simpler Trading blog at the end of 2015 when we're trading back in here, asking if 2016 was going to be the year to buy gold. And the reason we were looking at that then is that this move down from the 2011 all-time high in gold looked distinctly like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave move down. And this fifth wave had a very distinctive character that looked an awful lot like an ending diagonal and one that looked an awful lot like it was coming to a close. And so even though, as we've talked about over this week as I've been filling in for Raghee about the fact that these 5 wave moves are in the direction of trend, and that would warn us that that if we see this pattern coming from an all-time high, that we would expect to eventually see some continuation. Well, we need to first see a counter trend move the other way complete. And in the case of a move that takes 4 or 5 years to the downside, that counter trend bounce can take a while, and it can retrace a significant amount of price. Now, I want to be very clear. I am not looking for an immediate top in gold yet. But we do want to observe how very choppy this bounce in the yellow metal has been. And that is very typical of corrective moves, and therefore a reason to think that once this thing exhausts to the upside, that it's likely to exhaust below the 2011 high and subsequently travel to back below the low at the very end of 2015. And so while we started 2016 pretty much directly to the upside, I'm not looking necessarily for the same thing to start off 2020. There is still work to be done to the upside first. At least I think that's likely. The main reason I think that's likely is what I see here on the daily chart. The same sort of choppy overlapped action to the downside that we talked about to the upside. This is action downwards that looks very corrective. And so if the move down from this bounce high that we had earlier this year is not trending down, then we haven't resumed the downtrend, or likely haven't. There's no sign that we have. And in fact, we're going to favor the fact that there is more upside, that the trending action that we've seen in here has further to go. Now, I'm not immediately long here either. This sort of action, if we were to drill into lower and lower time frames, is kind of corrective, so we could see more of a pullback and then higher. And in fact, for the past few years, sort of all in through here, gold has been very tricky. I've liked it higher, but it has not been clear enough for me to trade. So I'm content to wait for this to finish off its bounce and then look for what I think will be a stronger move to the downside. And as we try and anticipate where that move might come from, I have my eye on sort of the 1600 area, or maybe just a little bit under. A few reasons for that. The first is we need to be back on the weekly to see this. The first is if we just take a 61.8% retrace of this decline, that gets us to, well, call it 1587. I'm looking at spot gold, not the futures, but the levels are going to be very, very similar, right? And then if we have a leg up here and a triangle in the middle, then if the leg up out of the triangle is equal in length to the leg up preceding the triangle, that gets here to call it 1595. So, of course, 1600 has some psychological import. It's right there. So I'm kind of looking towards that area, but what I really want to see is, a correction down, a completed five-wave move up, and then if we start heading down trend-like from there, I'm going to look for that to continue, likely to to not end until we get back to below the 2015 low. And while we can't tell for sure how long it might take to get that additional leg up, especially if we need more downside first, it very well may be later in 2020 when we start to see that. So just as another last look at how we can use Elliott Wave here to plan out some of our trades and scenarios, as we get ready for 2020, I am definitely asking the question, is this going to be the year when we want to start selling gold? Again, not right away, but stay tuned. Let's look for signs that we might be able to look downwards from higher. So with that, thank you for listening to me this week, filling in for Raghee. Hope to see you soon here in some of these other videos or in some of the other simpler trading products. Take care.